A warm and global namaste to all of you. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Nishit Kotak. I am here with the team from Hindu Academy. We meet here every Saturday, 2 o'clock UK time on our YouTube and Facebook channels. And you can also catch us on Twitter as well. We are live streaming there at the moment as well. For those of you who are new to the broadcast, let me just quickly run down how we run this broadcast. So you would have come here to learn about Hinduism. So this broadcast is primarily around the topic of Hinduism. But to get us started, we have a focus topic. Today's focus topic happens to be how to help children develop spirituality. So they are the next generation, and we need to make sure that they don't lose touch with their roots and their Hindu culture. And we will be looking at how we can do this in the best way. So after we've watched a little video around this focus topic, we'll open up for some questions and answers around it. And then eventually we will open up for a general set of questions and answers in anything to do with Hinduism. Now, as the viewer, you can get involved in a number of ways. Number one, like, share, subscribe, let people know more about this broadcast, because the more people who join us, the better the conversation tends to be. And number two, make sure that you follow along on our social media channels, because we regularly update the content there with new videos every week. And number three, if you could just put in your questions in the chat area for either Facebook or YouTube, I will pick it up and we will attempt to answer your questions live on air. So without taking further time, let me just quickly bring up the video for today. We will have a quick look at it and then come back and do a question and answer session around it. Enjoy this video.
You see, this is a very pragmatic question, practical thing. No high-flying philosophy, practical thing. What do we do for the next generation? What I would advise is this. You see, we Hindus are spoiled for choice. We've got so many tools. Do you know what is one of the best tools we possess? Power of storytelling, narratives. If you tell him, behave well, don't do this, don't hurt this thing, he's not going to listen. But do a story of Ganesh, do a story of Mother Goddess. Pick up some of the stories, the power of narration. You see, we are all grown-up children, basically. So even we are caught by storytelling. That's why kathas have the usefulness. But the power of narrative, for the children, my advice is this: don't give them philosophy, don't moralize, you lose them. Let them grow naturally. And the way to really pull them towards religion and towards these higher ideals are the powerful stories in the Hindu tradition. We are spoiled for choice. You can get this whole can be filled up with books, narratives for children. That many books we produce, colorful stories, exciting stories. You know, every week, my daughter, in fact, the one who wrote the book, does a class for children. She doesn't moralize, so don't do this, behave, nothing like that. It's all naughty. They're all naughty and she's equally naughty. Just gives fun story, just dish them out. They'll pick up the best thing. You don't need to teach them. They'll pick up the best. And they link up with religion in a natural manner, rather not in artificial, not under duress, not under pressure. They just fall in love. In fact, all of you are here because when you were children, your parents and your grandparents told you those marvelous stories of Hanuman and Ganesh, and you said, lovely stuff here. That pulled you. So it has fulfilled. So my first answer would be, focus on narratives. Some rituals that you do in the house, do not stop. Because again, we say we are modern. We don't need to do this, puja and all that. You stop it and your child has lost the link with religion. Continue to maintain some ritualistic practice in your daily life. It may be very minor. It may be just saying prayer before you eat, or before you go to sleep, or when you wake up, or just some minor routine that you kind of present in a natural form and which the whole family is participating, not the child, everybody is participating. So he feels that is part of the family life. Give it to him naturally. So a little bit of ritual and a lot of colorful stories. The stories will steal him. Steal his heart, it'll lift him up. Forget about him, it'll lift you up as well. That's the answer.
Free e-learning course in Hinduism. To register, please visit www.hindu-academy.com.
Talks on Hinduism. Sponsored by People Care. Encouraging caring for the elderly in their own homes. For more information, please visit peoplecare.com.
Fabulous. So we have a really interesting topic to explore, and today we are starting the call with Sitaben. Welcome, Sitaben.
Hello.
So what I'm going to do is let's get started with the topic of the day. Let me ask you a couple of questions around this. So children are the future. We do know that there's a problem not only in Hinduism, but many other mainstream religions. They are not able to engage with children. And the children of today will not maybe accept religion as it was taught in the past. So we saw Jaybai mention you and how you were supposedly very naughty. But can you share a personal story of how you discovered your own spirituality and how it has impacted your life?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, no, obviously I was so lucky to have Dad as my dad. And right from childhood, my dad always kept telling me all these beautiful, colourful stories of Hinduism. And every night I would look forward to hearing these lovely bedtime stories. And sometimes Dad would just make them up. Sometimes he would embellish stories which are already there in the traditions. And he would make them so funny, and we used to fall about laughing. It was just such a beautiful time, and I'll always sort of cherish those memories. But actually going forward from that, this is actually how Hindu Academy started, which is a really beautiful thing, because we started off, as I've said before, with a little group of little girls. We were about 4 or 5 at the time, and Dad was not used to public speaking at all. And he saw that at that time, there were no structured classes on Hinduism for children. Like everyone went for, English and maths and science classes. All of those classes were there, but there were no classes on Hinduism. So Dad says, well, let me set something up then. And, we put up little adverts all over in our local area. And to start off with, we just had 2 other little girls join me. So there was 3 of us. And then Dad was like, what are we going to do now? And my mum actually said to my dad, you're so good at telling Sita stories every bedtime on Hinduism. Why don't you just do the same with these other 2 little girls? So every week, dedicatedly, Dad would sit and run these classes, Sunday classes, we called them. And literally all we did was Dad would just tell us a story. We would say a couple of prayers, and we would sit down and colour and draw the story that Dad had just told us. And that was the end of the class. It was over in within an hour. But it was such a golden time. It was such a lovely time. And it started off in such a small and humble way. But then as sort of time went on and word of mouth and, people started hearing about this. So gradually from 3 little girls, it became 5 little children, then it became 10 little children. And every week, our little group of kids used to meet up every Sunday, hear these stories that Dad would talk about. And we used to learn about Hindu philosophy through those stories, because as Dad said in the video, if you just present dry philosophy to children, they are going to run away. It's just not appealing. But then what he did is he introduced these very subtle spiritual ideas of, this idea of Atman, this idea of Brahman, that everyone is divine, everything is divine. He would introduce that through the narrative of a story, and it really helped us to understand it. So I think it shows his tremendous skill to present the highest philosophy of Hinduism in a way that little children are able to understand it. And that really has left an impact on all of our lives. Like the other people who are in our class, we've got this shared sort of bond, this shared connection of understanding spirituality from such a young age and carrying that forward in our lives. So I think Dad is so completely right in that storytelling is magical, it's beautiful. You use your imagination and you conjure up these beautiful images in your mind. But not only that, you link it with these very spiritual ideas, which even as an adult, you remember those stories and you remember how you can implicate those messages in your everyday life. So I think it's a really beautiful way of introducing the idea of spirituality to small children who then carry it forward. And the wonderful thing is, it was never like a forced imposition that, oh, you must come and you must listen to this, lecture on Hinduism. It was nothing like that. It was very playful. It was very like, we would sit around and chat and laugh while Dad is telling the story. It was very sort of homely.
Engaging.
Very engaging, very homely, and done in a very relaxed way. And I think on one of our previous tributes to Dad, I think you saw a little clip of us as a class, and Dad would just do little like a quick fire round, and who knows what this word is, who knows what that word is, but it was done in a very fun and jokey way, and everyone had a really good time. So I think as a group of us, we were very lucky to have Dad to sort of put spirituality into us in this very fun and colourful way.
Indeed, I must say that J-Bay had a knack of communicating complex ideas in a simple manner. That was one of his strengths, I think. And I think it is also said that facts tell, stories tell. So people buy into stories. They want to buy into a vision of where things are happening. It's colorful, it's engaging, it is the right way to get them to take up an idea and then maybe run forward with it. And the idea is right. You need to engage with the youngsters at an earlier age when you have them develop their foundation for their judgment going ahead in life, their moral character and everything else is formed at a younger age. And if you do that in the right manner, then growing up, they will be fine, outstanding citizens of wherever they are. So how can parents help their children to form a spiritual connection at a young age? Story is one thing, but what are other activities parents can help their children to engage in and develop that sense of spirituality?
Yeah, of course. And one of the other things that Dad said, yes, we had the lovely stories and all of that, but another thing that Dad always encouraged us as a small group of kids is he always said, every night before you go to sleep, think of, because in Hinduism we've got so many different forms of gods. He would say, pick your favorite form of God, whether it be, Hanuman or Ganesh or whoever it is. And he said, every night before you go to sleep, repeat God's name 3 times. It's not a massive ritual. It's the tiniest of tiny rituals. But as a child, that's something you can get your mind around. It's not something that's going to take loads of time and you have to sit there for hours and hours doing these boring rituals. It's just something where you just repeat the name of God 3 times before you go to bed. And I know as a fact that, sometimes when you are able to have this ritual in your everyday life, it's something that can really hold your hand when you're going through difficulties in your life. When everyone's life is going to sort of have hardships. When you've sort of built in this ritual right from a young age, it's sort of like part of your routine. It's part of your character at that point. The fact that you've maintained that routine gives you a sense of strength. It gives you a sense of control when other stuff may appear out of control. You've got this ritual to hold on to say, actually, you know what, this is giving me strength. It's something really beautiful and something important. And I think it really makes sure that our foundation stays spiritual because, we're rushing around in a very sort of material world. We've got very material objectives. We're rushing from here to there. But just having this 1 minute of your life every day to say, this is something I'm dedicating towards spirituality, it gives you that spiritual foundation, that anchor that holds you steady through the sort of difficulties and challenges that life can throw at you. So it starts off as a very sort of, tiny little thing, but in a way it's like planting a seed. When you plant that seed, it starts to grow and flower as you grow up. So I think it's a really valuable lesson to have a little ritual. It doesn't have to be repeating God's name every night. It could be, saying the Gayatri Mantra. It could be, I don't know, like offering a flower to God every morning. It just takes 1 minute But for a child, that's something engaging. It doesn't take up loads of time. It's something that they can understand. So storytelling and rituals are, in very small, very subtle ways, can help to sort of imbibe spirituality and let it grow like a flower inside you. So I think it's a beautiful thing to do.
Fabulous. Yeah, I think it's about balance, helping people find, like you said, an anchor in their day-to-day busy lives. And it's like going to the gym. When you work a muscle, then it will strengthen over time. Over enough repetitions of doing certain exercise, it will strengthen. And so it's the same way with this. You keep one thing going on, a simple little thing, but over a period of time, it will become a bigger significance and a bigger impact on your day-to-day routine, and also as who you are as a person. So here's the next question. Growing up, what would you say is the significance of Hindu traditions and values in shaping a child's spiritual journey? Like, I understand, the children of today may not relate to some of the older traditions, but some of the headline concepts of the values that are behind these things, how do they sort of help shape a child's spiritual journey going forward?
No, that's a really important question. So yes, we've got these stories and we've got these rituals, but another very important thing is you need to be able to understand the ethics and morality and how it's going to impact you on your everyday life. So I think your role as a parent or a grandparent is incredibly important, because children copy what they see. If you see your parents talking rudely and roughly with people, you'll think it's okay to talk rudely and roughly with people, because that's all you know as a child. If you see your parents talking kindly and sweetly with everybody around them, then your child will also learn to speak kindly and nicely with everybody around you. If you as a parent or grandparent are doing acts of charity, you're doing good work for the community, you're acting selflessly, your child will pick up on that and think that that's the most natural thing to do. This is what my parent does. This is what my grandparent does. So if they see you engaging beautifully with everybody around you, that's a beautiful quality that they can imbibe. And if you sort of, put with that the lovely stories, for example, Dad's favorite story, which he's done at hundreds of schools, the story of Ganesh and the cat, which I can do if you like. It's a beautiful story. So if you combine your parents behaving beautifully with everybody around you, and you've got these lovely stories which contain the highest philosophy, then I think that's a beautiful combination for raising your child. And I'll do the story because obviously this is Dad's classic story.
Storytelling. We're talking about storytelling.
Stories are beautiful because they engage everybody, not just children, they engage adults as well. So the story goes, which Dad has done at so many schools across the country. So once upon a time, Ganesh was a small child and he went for his first day at school. And on his first day at school, Ganesh learnt the first 3 letters of the alphabet, and his teacher taught him A, B, and C, and he used to write it on the board, and then all the kids used to try and copy it. And Ganesh was very excited to have learnt the first 3 letters of the alphabet. And he went home excitedly to his mummy, who is, of course, the mother goddess Parvati, the mother goddess of the universe. And Ganesh says to her, "Mummy, please play with me. I want to show you what I've learned at school." But mummies, being mummies, are always busy in the kitchen preparing food. So Mother Goddess Parvati says, "Can't you see I'm busy in the kitchen? Why don't you go in the garden and play with the cat? I can see the cat's out there in the garden. Why don't you go out and play with the cat?" So Ganesh said, "Okay." So he thought, my teacher was using a blackboard and chalk. I've got one in my house. Let me take that out into the garden and play with the cat. And he thought, I've got a great idea. The cat can be my student and I'll be the teacher, because kids love to copy what they've seen. So he went out into the garden with his blackboard and chalk, and he saw the cat in the garden. The sun was shining and the cat was just relaxing and waving its tail, just relaxing in the sun. And Ganesh was a little bit rough-handed. He pulled the cat and said, "Cat, play with me. We're going to play a game of teacher and student. I'm going to be the teacher and you're going to be the student. And today you're going to learn the first 3 letters of the alphabet. And Ganesh had only just learnt the first two letters. So obviously he had very wobbly handwriting. So the first letter he wrote with very wobbly handwriting was the letter A on the blackboard. And he told the cat, "Cat, repeat after me. What is the first letter of the alphabet? It's A. Say A." And the cat, obviously being a cat, can't say A. So the cat said, "Meow." And Ganesh said, "Cat, this is not good enough. You haven't learnt your lesson properly. Here, let's try with the second letter." And then Ganesh, with his wobbly writing, wrote the second letter of the alphabet, B. And he said, "Cat, repeat after me, A, B." And the cat, being a cat, obviously can't say that. So the cat went, "Meow, meow." And Ganesh said, "Cat, this is really not good enough." Ganesh was getting fed up now. He said, "Cat, this is your last chance now. I'm going to show you the third letter of the alphabet." And with his wobbly writing, he wrote C on the blackboard. He told the cat, "Cat, this is your last chance. Repeat after me, A, B, C." And the poor cat, who was starting to get a bit worried by this point, started to say, "Meow, meow, meow." And Ganesh was really angry at this point. He was a bit heavy-handed, as we said before. And he picked up the cat and whacked it 3 times. Whack, whack, whack. And the poor cat had had enough of this game and he just ran off. And then Ganesh said, "Oh, my student has run away. Let me go back inside and see what my mummy is doing." He went back into the kitchen to see what his mum was doing. When his mum turned round, he was shocked to see that his mummy, the mother goddess of the universe, was covered in bruises. And Ganesh was shocked. He loved his mummy so much. He said, "Mummy, mummy, who has done this to you? Who has hurt you? I will destroy the person who has hurt you." And Mummy, the mother goddess of the universe, said, "Ganesh, what were you doing in the garden?" And Ganesh said, "I was playing with the cat." And the mother goddess Parvati said, "Did you hurt the cat?" And then Ganesh thought, "Oh, I did a little bit." He said, "Just a little." And Parvati, the mother of the universe, said, "I am the mother of the universe. Whenever you hurt any living thing, you hurt me. So anytime you hurt any living thing, you actually hurt me. So make sure that you treat everyone and everybody around you with reverence and respect, because it's me, the mother goddess, inside everybody." And from that day, Ganesh learnt his lesson. And from that day on, he wasn't so heavy-handed anymore. And he loved the idea of looking at everybody as his mother, as the divine mother. So it's a beautiful story, even though we know that, it doesn't, it's just a colourful story. It's not a real thing, but it helps to convey this beautiful idea that there is spirit inside everyone and everything. And I know sometimes Dad used to tell this story, and a little girl would come up to him at the end of the class and say, "How can it be real? Because there is so much suffering going on in the whole world. The mother goddess would be black and blue by now." And Dad would say, you've understood the story a bit too well. This is just a colourful story to help convey the idea. It's not literally true. But what it does is it shows the beauty of Hindu philosophy in a very engaging sort of way. That's Dad's classic story that he's done.
It's
so
a brilliant way
Yeah.
to convey a key concept to a younger child who wouldn't understand otherwise.
Yes.
But yeah, it's brilliant. And I always tell parents, remember that it's not, don't tell your kids, do what I say. Instead, lead by example and say, do as I do.
Yes.
So that's the right thing you mentioned, that, show them the way by doing things in the correct way, behaving in the right way. Be the person that you want them to be. So now we went from, you being a child to now let's talk about you having your own child. Can you share what parents can do to support their children in developing their own personal relationship with the divine?
Yes, so it's a really beautiful journey, and especially in Hinduism, we've got such a variety of different ways of thinking about God. So, for example, with Uma, I show her a lot of Dad's videos and clips of him telling stories, which is a great sort of remembrance for her of Dad telling these stories. So these colourful stories are very important. Also, giving them the space and the openness to think about things for themselves, because if you say to them, as you have said, if you tell them, do this, do that, it's really going to give a negative sort of impression in their mind. Let them think for themselves. Is this the right thing to do? Is this not the right thing to do? Let them also choose which form of God they love. Because in Hinduism, we've got such a variety. So do all the stories, expose them to all the images of all the gods and goddesses. And for example, my daughter Uma, her name means Mother Goddess. So she loves the idea of Mother Goddess. And every night we do a ritual of, we sing a few Hindu prayers, and we also repeat the name of, I tell her, what is your favorite god? And she says, Parvati. I say, okay, every night we're going to say the name of Parvati 3 times before you go to sleep. And we do it every night. And it sort of makes her feel happy and cozy before you go to bed, some kind of familiar routine that you can do, where you end up, you're closing your eyes at the end of the day, but you're thinking of higher things. So I think it's a beautiful way of bringing this idea of spirituality into your everyday life. So let them choose whichever god or goddess they love. You may find they're not attracted to any of those gods and goddesses, and you think, oh, what's wrong with that? But there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. They might just love the idea of being caring for everyone around them, and that is equally spiritual, and that's a beautiful thing. If that's what's appealing to them, then encourage them to do that more and show how good they are, show how sort of nurturing and their good quality. Try and sort of grow on that, build that confidence in them that actually that's what I want to do. So giving them that freedom, giving them that openness is a beautiful thing, but also exposing them to all the rituals and the colourful festivities that we have. Whenever there's Diwali, try and take them to the temple, try and take them to community events, wherever you go, which has any sort of cultural or religious significance, drag them along, let them see what it's like to have religion in your lives or spirituality in your life. Not just sort of say, oh, he's too young for this, they're not going to understand it. Take them along, just explain a little bit of what's going on. And if they get tired, just leave a bit early. That's okay. But at least they've had that exposure, and it leaves that sort of mental impression in their mind that this is something that the community does, and this is how we celebrate spirituality in our everyday lives. So there's a lot of little things that we can do to try and build that spiritual base, which can hopefully help them as grown-ups.
It's like a little bit like going to this world food restaurant where you got cuisines from all over the world, and then you'd find all these weird and wonderful things to try and taste and have. And anything from paneer tikka to teppanyaki, you give them a choice of trying things on and also showing them what are the options that they have. Then they can then pick their own path going forward. Now, as children grow and they're at different ages, they're exposed to different information, different friends and peer groups, etc. What are some of the obstacles that children can often face on their spiritual path? And how can we as parents help them to overcome this?
Yes, so the obstacles they may face is that, if they haven't developed that understanding of religion and spirituality from a young age, and if they don't really understand why we do this ritual, why this particular idea is prevalent in Hinduism and all of that, if they don't understand that, if that hasn't been presented to them, when their friends talk about their other religions, it can make them feel sort of lacking in confidence if they don't know enough about their own religion, and it makes them want to sort of hide under the table and avoid the topic. Whereas Hinduism is such a beautiful, such a vast religion, it should be something that you are proud of. So I think it's really important as parents to also understand why we do puja, why we go to the temple, all these basic simple things is important, because then, when they're talking to their friends, they can say, this is why we go to the temple. This is why we like to think of God with form, because it makes it easier for us to relate to spirituality. And then their friends will say, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or, for example, a lot of the images of gods and goddesses, they have like elephant heads and this head and monkey face. And they may get challenged by that, by their friends who are not Hindu. They say, what kind of a weird religion is this? But if they've understood that actually we're just sort of elevating the whole of the living kingdom to the divine, and we're incorporating animals into our images of gods and goddesses, they can say, oh, that makes sense. And it makes them feel confident. It gives them that boost of confidence to say, I come from a beautiful, grand tradition, and it's not something to shy away from or to hide from. So I think it's really important to build that into them. But then as they grow up, they shouldn't also be fixated on the colourful stories, because you have to follow your growth, your progression. If you stay stuck in a rut, if you stay stuck in the stories and you think that they are literally true, when you are a grown-up and you try and interact with other grown-ups, they're going to think, what kind of a religion is this? You actually think Hanuman can fly?
It's almost like some point your kid's going to know there's no real Santa Claus.
Exactly. You have to kind of move on, you have to grow, you have to evolve. And as your child grows up and they start questioning, really, Mummy, did this happen? You can say, no, this is a colourful story, it's mythology, but it helped you as a child to understand the ideas of spirituality. But now you are grown up, why don't you look at the deeper philosophy of Hinduism? And when they understand the deeper philosophy, it can really have a tremendous impact, positive impact on their lives, because life is tough. It's got a lot of challenges. There's a lot of hard work involved when you're sort of working and looking after children yourself. So having that sort of spiritual base is so tremendously important. And then when you're able to sort of imbibe that spirituality and live it in your everyday lives, the people around you will find it to be a pleasant experience to work with you, to be with you. So it can have a tremendous positive impact when you are able to sort of show the journey, spiritual journey, and encourage them to grow along the way.
Super. So folks, time is flying fast. We are having a very engaging topic today. I still have a few more questions. We are going to end this session a little early today. By about 2:45, 2:50 maximum, we will end. I have some questions for Sita, but I'm going to let her catch her breath because I've been asking her questions since the start. And I'm going to just give a quick shout out to some of our viewers who are online. Welcome to Safe Planet. Welcome to Sherry's Jubilee, Christine, all the way from the US. We've got Siddharth, Charmaine, our regular viewer from South Africa, Kunal, and we have a few others as well online. So we have a little bit of discussion. Ali as well. Welcome, Ali. You're always here every week. And it's wonderful to see you all on the broadcast every week on a regular basis. So carrying on with the discussion for today, the world today, sometimes I feel, is a little bit cold-hearted. People don't have time. Social media has got a negative impact, I feel. And there are some qualities which are important in people that I feel that maybe we are losing. So how can children be taught to cultivate qualities like compassion, kindness, gratitude to enhance their spirituality?
Yeah, that's a really beautiful question, because as you said, the world can be quite ruthless, especially with social media and all the pressures that people face when they're dealing with social media. So we need to sort of arm our children with the strength within themselves to get over this. And the way to do that is by actually showing why we should be kind, why we should be good human beings. And the reason given by Hindu philosophy is because the same spirit that's in you is the same spirit that's in me. And the reason why we should be good to others is because it's the same, what is in you is also in me. So it's literally, even doing something good or doing something kind is not something to sort of blow your own trumpet about. It's something that should be seen as the most natural, the most humble thing to do. And it reminds me very much of what Swami Vivekananda said. He said, essentially, remember that the world is not sitting around waiting for us to come along and save it. Don't ever be so arrogant as to think that. All you are doing by doing something good for somebody else is that you are educating yourself. And he said, see the world as like a moral gym, in a way, where you can practice your own morality and do something beneficial for yourself. By helping others, you are actually helping yourself on your own spiritual journey. And if you're able to sort of express that to your, children and teenagers as they grow up, it gives them the right attitude for doing something good for others. It's not because, look, I'm here to save the world, because we can never save the world. Don't ever be arrogant enough to think that, but think that I'm helping myself. It's in fact a true privilege. It's a true blessing to be able to help somebody else. So if we live and work with that very sort of humble attitude, we will hopefully be able to make some difference to others, but actually ultimately we'll be making a difference to ourselves on our own sort of spiritual journey. And Vijay Bhai is here, which is great. So
Vijay Bhai.
Yeah, hello.
Sorry, I'm late. Yeah, a couple of things I couldn't avoid. So
That's great. We're happy that you're able to make it today. Today, the focus topic is on how to help children develop a sense of spirituality. I've been asking a series of questions to Sitaben. So I'll ask one more to her to give you a chance to settle in, then I'll ask you one or two. So Sitaben, when I was younger, my dad used to take me around to whenever there's a community event. So I'm talking about when I was really young, like 7, 8, that time. And we would then engage with volunteer work, serving, when there's a wedding, we'd be behind the service counter, helping serve, doing whatever we need to do. And that plus we used to go to the temple every Thursday and so on. So it became like a ritual for us. That carried on for a number of years. And it led me to, I think I've done over 15,000 hours of community service so far. But what I'm trying to ask is, what is the importance of community and shared spiritual experiences for children, and how can we encourage more of this?
So I think it's very important. The more social interaction for children, the better it is for their mental well-being. But not only that, doing that in the context of a spiritual, spiritual ritual or whatever it is, religious ritual, is very, very important, because it kind of embeds that idea of, this is where I come from, this is what my family does, and this is how we celebrate the idea of spirituality and bring it to life in a way. Because if it's just isolated to, this is something that we just do in our house and nothing else, and I go to school and I go to college and it's a very isolated event, it doesn't really help matters. So seeing that what you are learning at home is something that other kids are also learning at home, and you're all coming together and learning the same thing, engaging in the same activities. You dress up in nice clothes and you go to the temple or you go to this community function and you see everyone, for example, if it's Garba or Navratri, you see everyone praying or showing reverence to the Mother Goddess, for example. It's a beautiful thing because it kind of reinforces that spiritual message. It's not something that just me and my little family do. It's something that is shared by a much wider group of people, and it gives you that sense of comfort, part of being a community. So it's good for your mental well-being, but also your spiritual well-being, because interaction with other human beings is a spiritual experience because you're interacting with spirit. So what a beautiful way of living your life. Vijay Bhai, any thoughts?
No, I actually, Sitaben, I absolutely agree. I think interactions are very important, especially for young children, in a kind of a safe, environment with lots of fun, lots of storytelling. I also noticed one thing, that when Elizabeth Temple does it, they do camps where they do sports, a lot of sports, playing around. They do treasure hunting among the woods. So in a way, it kind of connects you with nature as well. So all these things, so in a way, to see the idea of spirit everywhere, in a spiritual environment. And then maybe in the evening, they do a couple of minutes of meditation. With young children, maybe only 5 minutes, elders. And they do it together in a kind of a group. Sometimes they do it across age groups. So people learn from each other's age groups. So these are all various ways that we can do. And I think we have to all make more effort to have this kind of community events, or at least camps as well, if you can, because quite often we are so much stuck in our own home on TV. And even little kids nowadays, I've seen them on the phone all the time, or, the pad or something. So how do we get them, as Sita says, to interact, not with a virtual kind of character, but real human beings? There's a huge difference between the two. So, I think that's all these activities really help children to grow spiritually. And I think
I can totally relate to that, because growing up, we always had these kind of activities on an ongoing basis. and we used to engage and we used to love them. And yeah, they did play a good part of, a good role in our life as well.
Yeah.
Now, we have about 10 minutes to go. I have about 6 questions to go. So I'm going to ask them rapid fire style. So Vijay bhai, one of the most important things you want for your child is for them to be growing up as an independent person, but one who has their own strong sense of moral beliefs that will not be swayed by peer pressure or other kind of pressures to sway from what they believe is right, and they understand what's right and what's wrong. So how can parents help these children to develop a strong moral compass based on Hindu values and teachings?
So I think one thing I've noticed which really helps is to bring our child up with confidence to kind of believe in their own self, and also believe in their own kind of divine nature, because it's very hard. I mean, even if when we go in a community group or we go in a crowd of people, the crowd mentally is very quite easily kicks in. You feel, oh, I'll be out of place if I don't stand my ground. Or so how do you challenge them? Because you see that a lot, outside. Then you feel bad afterwards. Oh, I shouldn't have really taken part in this mob and whatever idea. So one thing is that first of all, get them realize that there's something very special. And that's why I love Vivekananda, because he talks a lot about that. And there's something really divine, and become a strong person, strong, at least mentally strong, and in such a way that you cannot be swayed from what is the truth. And that's why, I mean, if you read his biography, he faced tremendous stuff in America, but he never felt the need to go with the crowd. No. So I think that's one thing we have to do with the kids. Give them the confidence that your moral compass, follow your own moral compass, follow what is right, and don't get swayed by others. And I think part of that is all these activities take place, which is sports, meditation, you going to temple, all the activities build their confidence. I think other thing, the parents can also make a big effort to try and get the kids to have that independence and look, sometimes go with the instinct, but stick with your moral compass. So it's a kind of all-round development. But I think confidence, self-confidence, to feel that, look, I don't have to just follow others, as Swami says, be a lion, don't be a sheep and follow. Like that's the key thing here.
Absolutely, it's a key element is confidence. That's true, and self-belief. Sitaben, one quick question for you. How can we help children to understand and respect the spiritual beliefs of others around them?
Well, I think it's really important, because I think especially in schools these days, they make a lot of effort to try and incorporate different religious festivals and ideas into the school curriculum, which is great. But I think also coming from Hinduism is a real advantage. It's a real bonus, because we've got this idea of pluralism inbuilt in our philosophy. So the idea that you can make spiritual progress in a variety of different ways is not seen as a threat, or why is your religion there and is mine better or you're better? That doesn't even come into the picture. The fact that it's a democracy, you can think of spirituality, approach spirituality in a variety of different ways, is something that should be ingrained in children to try and avoid conflict in the name of religion when they grow up.
Amazing. Vijay bhai, here's a quick one for you. How can spirituality be used as a tool for children to navigate and understand difficult emotions?
I think that's a very good point. I think quite often, if you have a spirituality in you, you will tend to not focus on the material stuff. Also, you tend not to focus on, it happened. Oh, I'm hurt. You let go a lot. I've noticed people are spiritual can let go a lot of stuff. They don't hold a grudge quite often, and they don't get stuck. Somebody said this to me, it's, that's just how things are. If you think of it as spirituality, it really helps you kind of not get stuck too much. So spiritual in a way guides you away from all the bonds which actually tie you down emotionally as well. It's not just material, even quite some emotional bonds. Some are good, but sometimes, you feel, oh, somebody said this to me, and you just feel bad. If you're spiritually saying, what, I'm a spiritual being. Why am I getting stuck with that? So in a way, spiritual really helps in that sense, in a kind of a moral sense, an emotional sense.
Superb. Sitaben, how can we foster a sense of wonder and awe in children to help them develop spirituality?
think just being able to appreciate the little things. And I think that's something that children are naturally good at, like, for example, when I tell my daughter I've made her favorite dinner, like, she gets so excited about it. I think that's just a natural thing with children. They have this ability to just appreciate the little things, and it's something that we lose as we grow up. So I think it's really wonderful as children to have that, and to try and keep it as long as it lasts, because it's kind of magical, really. It makes everything colorful and beautiful to have this sense of awe. And they always ask 100 why questions. Why because they are in awe of the world around them. Why is the leaf green? Why is the sky blue? And as an adult, you don't know why. But it just kind of shows the beautiful sense of awe and wonder which they have. And you just have to try and foster it in the best way that you can, and just hope that it lasts as long as it can, because the world is a beautiful place and we just kind of forget about it in our rush of life.
Super. Vijay, can you share some techniques for teaching children meditation and mindfulness to deepen their spiritual connection?
I think just to add to Sita's point, which is a very good way of doing it, is get children to appreciate nature. And when they're young, appreciate the most beautiful thing they like in nature. Could be an animal, could be a flower, plant. And they do that already, because as Sita mentioned, children, when they see a flower, they'll pluck every leaf, they look at what's inside, what is born. Because as Sita mentioned, the awe and wonder which they have, you can use that in a way to say, look, pick anything you like, close your eyes and look at that, and just, what do you think about it? So slowly you can get them to focus, start with objects like that. That's one way of doing it. That's one of the beautiful ways that children are really focused. Get them a nice piece that they like, not what you like, what they like to focus on. Could be anything, and start from there.
We are almost going to finish up. I have one last question for Sita, or maybe one more then for Vijay, quick one. We talked about storytelling being one of the ways to engage children, but there are other ways. So what role do music, art, and dance play in a child's spiritual development, and how can we incorporate these?
That's a really beautiful question, because spirituality is, it can infiltrate into every field of our lives. And for example, from a Hindu perspective, we've got Hindu art, we've got Hindu music, which all sort of imbibe these ideas of spirituality. And these are things that naturally engage with children anyway, colorful pictures, colorful music, all of these things are very appealing already to children. So what better way to sort of engage them in the idea of spirituality than by using these tools and presenting the idea of spirituality through colorful pictures and colorful beautiful music. They can learn some lovely songs as well. So I think it's a wonderful tool. We have a lot of wonderful tools to help imbibe the idea of spirituality into our children.
Fantastic. Last question now for Vijay Bhai. Vijay Bhai, as children grow up, we've got youngsters, and you've got older children, and to my mom, I'm still her young child as well, even though I'm almost 50. But how can children be taught to find meaning and purpose through service to others?
Oh, that's a very big question. But yes, I think if you if you start from a young age and teach them the idea of service, automatically meaning and purpose will come. The key thing, again, to teach them that, look, the idea of divinity in others and social interactions. And once that happens, the meaning and purpose will come automatically. The key thing is to serve others, and I think that will kind of work out. Yeah.
Amazing. So, folks, I just want to say thank you very much for tuning in today. Unfortunately, I've been away from the keyboard for most of the session today, but I hope you truly enjoyed it. We really enjoy sharing and having this little chat about different things to do with Hinduism every week. And the reason we do it is because you all encourage us, engage with us, and share your thoughts and comments with us to keep us going as well. So please do tune in next week on Saturday at 2:00 for our regular broadcast. But for today, I'd like to say thank you very much to Sita Ben and Vijay Bhai for being the driving force behind the session for the day. Have a great week ahead, everybody. Bye-bye for now.